that can be really hard. And for us, the training ground for us was those 10 years as licensed foster parents, where we would learn about things that we wished we had never learned about. I mean, really, like we would just, that was a very hard time. And then Kent is a pastor, but after we lost a church plant, and then for 5 years, Kent worked for the FBI. And he learned about things that he wished he had never learned about. The evil in this world is so profound. And, the new, human trafficking right now, we're not talking about it as much as we ought to because the church we haven't quite landed in a good awareness place, but it's enormous. It's absolutely enormous. So what we have experienced is that it's much harder to hear about these horrible things and have absolutely no way of doing anything about it. It is so much harder than pulling people in close. And I've also found that when you have many hands, when many people know what you're doing, I keep a steno pad right by the coffee pot, and anytime you want to know what I'm doing that day, there's my list of things to do. And, right, the next page is my grocery list. And if you are, and the meal list, and who needs what. And I'm an open book. And I have so many stakeholders in our life who know that they'll just come and say, oh, Miss Beth needs, groceries on Monday. Well, I can easily do that. Let me take that off your list. I have people just initial a box and check it. I mean, that happens all the time. I had a situation recently where I was about to have about 20 people over, and a dear friend needed to talk with me and needed to Skype with me, and I really wasn't sure quite how to manage this. So we're Skyping, and one of the new folks in our church, who is someone who's been pretty much outcast his whole life, has a weight problem, very large, and I mean to the point where it's dangerous, and he's at healthcare, and there are lots of things going on, and I was hoping I could help him because I knew Kent wasn't ready, and so I've got this Skype thing and this guy, and who knew, but my friend from church is a fantastic cook, and he looked at me and he said, you go talk with your friend, I'm going to make dinner. I have no idea if he knew how to make dinner at that time, but it seemed like it was a good, choice, and it was phenomenal. It was phenomenal, and it came to, we almost have become, it's become a bit of a joke that he's our favorite chef, He had no problem. He found his way. So I would say, if you think you're doing it alone, you're doing it in the flesh. So, the worst thing you can do, and this is true for any Christian work, whether it's public speaking, God forbid I would ever come up here and try to do any of this in the flesh, right? You should run if I ever tried to do that. Whether it's making a meal, whether it's homeschooling my children, parenting, sharing the gospel with my neighbor, doing a prison visitation, taking care of kids on the fly, whatever it is, if you're doing it in the flesh, you're not doing it for the Lord. And it's when you're doing things in the flesh that it gets really hard. And early on in ministry, Ken Smith, the pastor the Lord used in my conversion, he sat down with Kent, my husband, who's a pastor, and he said, Kent, I want you to know, if you ever feel burned out, it's your own fault. And Kent said, oh, you know what I mean? And Ken Smith said, because being a pastor or being in the ministry, it's a little bit like being self-employed, all right? Yes, you're employed by the Lord, but you guys work out what's doable and enlist others to help. And that, to me, has been very wise advice, that if I'm feeling burned out, it's because I'm trying to do this in the flesh, and I haven't worked this out. But definitely, my children know how to cook, they know how to clean, and I have good helpers. So just at that level.